Oh, beautiful. Look at the light on that. Okay, we're currently at Maeshowe, in the north part of the sacred landscape, looking down towards Hoy. From Maeshowe we'll go down to see Brogar, which is another enormous earth ring with standing stones around it. Another very, very large circle called the Stones of Stennes, but these monuments are all intervisible. Maeshowe is fantastic. It's the largest of these chambered cairns. Always overwhelming to be here. There's nothing that surpasses Maeshowe. If you look at the construction of Maeshowe, there's nothing in the Neolithic world which tops it. Maeshowe is incredibly spectacular. It's always breathtaking to be in here. To see the construction in here just shows where the British culture achieved its pinnacle, because the stones are so closely packed together. In 1861, James Farrar came through the roof and sort of brought Maeshowe back into history for the first time since the Vikings. The Vikings had broken in, King Haakon broke in the 12th century. He bore treasure away from this howe, apparently, according to the graffiti, and they sheltered in here for a night, and according to the Orkney Inga saga, 2 of his men went crazy. It's stated very flatly, but you can only imagine what it would be like to have 2 crazy men on your team, slowing them down considerably, especially a group of patriarchal warriors like the Vikings who were full on at all times. It seems that the idea that all the community was buried in here is obviously an impossibility, because so many people were needed to construct this. It seems that there was a selected bunch of people. At winter solstice, at the sunset, just before sunset, the sun shines directly down this 35-foot passage right into the main chamber. It's something that's also seen in New Grange in Ireland. And of course it would have been always spectacular. Possibly it would have been something that initiates were shown, you know? Just to say, okay guys, we've got this control. You're part of this culture. Let's take it forward. They would have seen everything as part of this great cosmic drama. We're now at the standing stones of Stennes. This is one of the most fantastic stones in megalithic culture. It's over 20 feet high and probably 4 or 5 inches thick. Standing stones used to number 12, now there are only 3, but this would have once looked like a sort of a megalithic crown in the landscape. It's possible that rituals over the years went from one place to another in kind of a procession, maybe a progress across the landscape. That's definitely the best one. I'm standing on a mound looking down to the Ring of Brogar. This is the most impressive of all the circles in terms of its physical size. The Ring of Brogar is the latest of these monuments, still in existence, made after Stennes and after Maeshowe. When they dug this ditch, they had to go down directly into Orcadian flagstone, like the stones that the monument is made of. They had to dig with antler pickaxes, chip, chip, chip away until this stuff finally came up. It was an enormous job, so clearly the significance of the ditch was enormous. I think seeing a lot of these monuments, it's definitely likely that there were people employed to perceive monuments, perceive their place in the landscape, people who traveled vast distances to do just that. There are certain obsessions that the Neolithic architects seem to put in to certain little details, almost as though it was a megalithic thumbprint that said I was there. It's quite possible that there was a gang of incredibly versatile megalithic builders that moved around. I'm quite surprised that these monuments have stayed as well as they have. I think they must have chosen the stone incredibly well. There must have been somebody out there who was a right quarry expert. That was a very inspirational visit. I think that this visit is some of the best weather I've ever seen here. Yeah, just everything about Orkney is very impressive. Thanks very much. Bye-bye. I'm gonna be back. I'm gonna be back. We're currently at Kirkton of Culsalmond in Aberdeenshire. The main reason that we've come here is that sacred hill up on the horizon known as Dunnideer. Dunnideer is kind of like a lost Glastonbury of the north. On top of that sacred hill is the remains of a 12th century chapel, very similar to Glastonbury Tor. This church was built on top of a stone circle. Seems to have survived until the 1700s, at which time the stone circle was dug up and cast into the floor of what is now the church of the Kirkton of Culsalmond, or Culsalmond. So if we stand there and we look across, we can see its prehistoric significance. And the reason we're here is to show right across the area, at least 14 stone circles make that its main focal point. Okay, and there in front of us is Dunnideer, the central sacred hill of this Aberdeenshire scenery. The reason that this is such a strong image is because it can give us some idea of what Glastonbury would have once upon a time been like before Christianization destroyed many of the stone circles. What's happened in Aberdeenshire is that there are just so many, it's impossible to destroy all the circles.